by the GSCPM in the year 2011-12. Best column writer for sales tax review and published by the GSCPM in the year 2013-14 and 2020-21. He has also received special appreciation award given by the GSCPM for his 6 years of service from 2013-14 to 2019-20. Thank you, sir, for coming here and giving us a valuable time. Over to you, Mir. Rino?
Yes, over to you, sir. You can take the session forward.
Can I start?
Yes, yes.
Good afternoon, friends. At the outset, I would like to thank President Mr. Ujjwal Bhakra, Mr. Kavi, other office bearer, and especially to Bhavin Mehta and Sachin for giving me an opportunity to share my views on today's topic, practical aspects of annual return GSTR 9 and reconciliation statement GSTR 9C. Friends, before I take up the subject proper, let me tell you, in my present day, I am aware that we all must have done file annual return reconciliation statement since last 4 years. But certain slides I have considered in my presentation, keeping in mind the some of the members must be in their beginning phase of the practice. Now, coming to the subject proper, just I'm sharing the screen. Friends, as we know, our today's topic is practical aspects and whatever intricate issues are there in GSTR 9 and 9C. Friends, to understand annual return and reconciliation statement, we must have to refer section 44 and rule 80 sub rule 1 and rule 80 sub rule 3. First, let us understand what are the provisions of section 44. What it speaks about: every registered dealer other than an input service distributor, a person paying tax under section 51, that is the persons who are covered to deduct TDS of GST, not income tax. Section 52, persons covered to collect tax TCS, then casual taxable person and non-residential taxable person. These are other than that, exclusion, shall furnish annual return, which may include a self-reconciliation statement. See here, the point we have to keep it in our mind. Earlier, there were two separate sections where annual return was mentioned separately and reconciliation statement, that is 9C, was mentioned separately. But now they have clubbed in section 44 that self-furnish an annual return, which may include a self-certified reconciliation statement reconciling the value vis-a-vis 3B as well as the books of account, means audited books of account. We have to match both the things and put correct figure, and you have to file the annual return. Under section 44, there are exclusions as per second provision of section 44. Who are the under exclusion category? Any department of central government or a state government or local authority whose books are liable to be audited under CAG, Controller Auditor General of India, or liable for audit under local authorities, then they are being exempted for filing annual return. This you have to keep it in your mind. Then rule 80 sub rule 1 for annual return. What it speaks about: every registered person other than TDS person, TCS person, casual taxable, ISD, input service distributor, and non-residential taxable person shall have to furnish an annual return for every financial year as specified under section 44 before on or before 31st of December. So for 21-22, we all need to file annual return and reconciliation statement before 31st December 22. Who others are liable to file annual return? Composition dealer, who are covered under section 10. They are also liable to furnish the return in form GSTR 9A. And similarly, every electronic commerce operator who are collecting TCS shall also liable to furnish annual return in form 9B. But according to my knowledge, still 9B is not yet prescribed. Coming to rule 80 sub rule 3, it speaks about the limit for reconciliation statement. What it speaks about? Every registered person other than those referred in the second proviso to section 44, which I have already said, the exclusion category, and other exclusions are ISD, TDS person, TCS person, casual taxable, annual, and NRTP. If other than that, if any dealers whose turnover exceeds during aggregate turnover exceeds during a financial year rupees 5 crore rupees, then they need to furnish self-certified reconciliation statement along with annual return. See, in both section as well as in rule, they have merged. In annual return, section 44, they have said they need to furnish annual return along with reconciliation statement. In rule also, they say they need to furnish reconciliation statement along with annual return following the end of the financial year. Aggregate turnover. This is very important to decide whether GSTR 9 is applicable to the dealer, yeah, GSTR 9C is applicable, yeah, both will be applicable to the dealer. What is the what that definition prescribed as per section 2 subsection C? 6. Aggregate turnover means the aggregate value of all taxable supplies, excluding the value of inward supplies on which tax is payable under RCM. Exempt supplies to be included export of goods or service or both, and interstate supplies of person having the same PAN to be computed on all India basis, but exclude CGST, SGST, Union Territory Tax, and cess, IGST and cess. So, if a company having head office, say in Maharashtra, and locating various branch, they are having various branch in different states, and they are having single PAN, then to decide or to consider aggregate turnover, say of 2 crore or 5 crore, we need to consider total turnover and not only of head office or only of branch. Correct? No doubt, we need to do audit. If audit is a reconciliation statement is applicable, we need to do state-wise. But to consider the turnover, individual turnover need not be considered, but in totality, turnover we need to consider. Now, aggregate turnover applicable for 21-22 financial year. So taxpayer having aggregate turnover up to rupees 2 crore, they came out with the notification number 10 of 2022 dated 5th July 22. By virtue of that notification, they have exempted the dealer who are having the aggregate turnover up to rupees 2 crore. Earlier, that was made optional. Means up to financial year 2021, they made optional for the dealer whether to file or not. That was the choice given to the dealer. But now they came out with the notification, exemption notification. By virtue of that notification, the dealer whose aggregate turnover is up to rupees 2 crore, they need not file annual return. Then what would be the position? The turnover of the dealer whose turnover exceeding 2 crore but up to rupees 5 crore. As I have already said in my earlier slides, for GST GSTR9C reconciliation statement, it would be applicable to only those dealers whose turnover exceeds rupees 5 crore. Correct? So what would happen between 2 to 5 crore turnover? So according to me, they need to compulsorily file GSTR 9, but they are being exempted from filing GSTR 9C. And the dealers whose turnover, aggregate turnover exceeds rupees 5 crore, they need to file both GSTR 9 and 9C. See, I have prescribed certain contingency or certain type of transaction, whether it should be considered under aggregate turnover for to decide whether GSTR 9 is applicable or not. First is sale of goods and services rendered. Yes, as we know in GST, both goods and service sales are to be considered. So the turnover of sales of goods and services are to be considered under aggregate turnover. Loan received or deposits. So here the question whether any type of such type of transaction would form part of aggregate turnover, according to me, no, because there are no supply. I neither of goods or nor service would include in this type of transaction. Another is interest received or accrued on FD in bank, post, NSE debenture. As we are aware, they have exempted interest received from FD or NSE or debenture from GST. From there would not be any GST liability on interest payment, but for calculating aggregate turnover, yes, you need to consider that in interest figure under aggregate turnover. Income from sales of security or profit thereof and dividend. As we know, if you refer the definition of goods, in that they have specifically excluded security transactions. So according to me, this type of transaction would not be considered under aggregate turnover. Sale of land. This is very important. As we know, sale of land is covered under Schedule 3. Schedule 3 pertains to what? No supply. Correct? Like salary, employee-employee relation is there. Then insurance claim received, etc. These all type of transactions are covered under Schedule 3, which is meant for no supply. So now the question would be whether if any sale of land you've done, whether that should form part of the aggregate turnover, or even the sale of flat after receiving OC, occupation certificate, whether that would form part of the aggregate turnover for deciding whether annual return is applicable or not. According to me, no, since it is a no supply transaction. But if we refer table 5, then under table 5 of GSTR 9, it is necessary to be shown because they have specifically mentioned non-GST transaction includes no supply. Correct? So this is very important to be included, and we need to also keep it in our mind what would be the impact of Rule 42, reversal of ITC. Then bad debts recovery or creditors return back. According to me, it would not form part because there is no supply. Insurance claim received of business of LIC policies. Yes, it is covered under Schedule 3. So no need to consider in turnover. Interest received on delayed payment by customer by a recipient service. Yes, it is specifically a part of valuation, section 15. So it would be considered in aggregate turnover. Sales of liquor, the natural gas, petroleum product, etc. This is also a non-GST item. Correct? Presently, there are no GST on this type of petroleum, diesel, etc. There is no GST. It is not come under the purview of GST. But being a non-GST transaction, it is a non-taxable supply that includes exempt supply. So this would form part of turnover. Commission income, yes. Sale of furniture, old machinery, mobile, etc. Yes, turnover, it should be considered. Duty drawback, definitely no. Partner salary as partner from partnership form. This would also not be a part of aggregate turnover. Sitting fees received by the director, yes, it would form, and GST would be leviable. Salary or remuneration of director, no, because there is an employee-employee relation. So, par schedule 3 item, no need to consider income of royalty years and slum sales. These are to be considered for aggregate turnover. Here I have taken one practical example. Say there are 3 contingencies. There are 4 HO and 3 branches. First category, the turnover for Maharashtra HO is 1 crore, Gujarat branch 50 lakhs, Rajasthan 25, and Delhi branch not registered. So total aggregate turnover is 1.75 crore, which is below 2 crore. So no need to file annual return. Second scenario, 1 crore each, and Delhi is not registered. So turnover crosses 2 crore, liable for 9, GSTR 9, but only applicable to Maharashtra, Gujarat, and Rajasthan because Delhi is not yet registered. And last, 1 crore, 3 crore, 5 crore, but registered. Delhi is registered, but aggregate turnover is 0. So even though aggregate turnover is 0 for Delhi branch, still annual return needs to be filed. And here GSTR 9C would also be applicable for all the 4. See, up till now, 2 press release dated 4 June 19, 3rd July 19, and notification number 56 by 2019, dated 14/11/19, have been issued by the government. Because if you remember, in the initial phase of GST implementation 17/18, 18/19, we all were in confused states. We were not knowing. Even the form itself is not, I would say, foolproof form. Unlike VAT, see, those who were doing practice under VAT, they must be knowing when we were filling up 704, after filling up the purchase sale data, set off, etc., we would be in a position to know whether what are the tax payable, tax paid, and balance tax payable or refund. But in the current scenario, GST, when you fill up GSTR 9, even though you fill outward data, inward data, but at the end of filing, completing GSTR 9, we are not in a position to come to know what are the tax payable or refundable, whatever it may be, directly. Correct? So in those days, government also realized that there were a lot of issues raised by various associations, public at large. So they came out with notification and some clarification to simplify GSTR 9 and 9C. White notification 59, certain clauses which were to be filled up, they made it optional so that it would become easier. Recently, on 5th July 22, notification number 14 by 2022 came out with certain changes or certain details are compulsorily to be mentioned, which was being optional earlier, but for 21-22 they made it compulsory to be shown under GSTR 9 as well as 9C. What are that? That I will come when my further presentation would be, it will cover up. As I already said, since there were no standard guidelines issued by the government, so every person, every dealer, every consultant, every practitioner, they must have filed GSTR 9 and GSTR 9C as per their understanding. In the notification number 56 by 2019, that was applicable up to 2019-20, which type of clauses or table were made optional, like credit note, debit note, though it was mentioned separately in GSTR 9, but it was allowable to mention in net. See, under B2B or B2C, you can put net figure. So no need to mention the separate figure for credit note, debit note, amendments. Then in table 5, there were various categories: exempted turnover, nil rated, non-GST, no supply. They also, at that time, they made it optional. You can put consolidated figure. Then in ITC table 6, like input service, capital goods, they also allow, at that time they were allowed to mention in consolidated manner. But in financial year 2021, they have specifically asked inputs and capital goods. It means input and input service can be mentioned combined, but capital goods to be mentioned separately. Reversal of ITC, जो table 7 में था, that was also made it optional. कि भाई you can put it in consolidated manner. Table 8, which is a problematic table for everybody rather. So they made it optional कि आपको भरना है भरो, नहीं भरना है तो you can attach even separate sheet in PDF format along with 9C. Even table 12, 3, 15, 16, 17 and 18 were made it optional. So it was little bit easier for everybody to fill that forms, and that's why we could be in a position to complete our target of our dealer to file GSTR 9C up to 2021. Regarding 9C, earlier when originally form came, the word mentioned was reporting about true and fair. So the huge responsibility was casted on the chartered accountant and cost accountant. But after representation, they made it, instead of true and fair, they made it true and correct. Even case flow statement, they made it optional. If it was available, you should have filed, otherwise no need. In table 5 also, you could have mentioned consolidated figure in table 5O. Table 12 and 14 regarding ITC of GSTR 9C, they made it optional. But from financial year 2021, as we all are aware, for the reason known to the government, they have removed section 35 subsection 5. By virtue of that, they did not require the service of chartered accountant and cost accountant for certification of GSTR 9C, the reconciliation statement. I don't know what would be the reason, but anyway, we will not go into that. But from financial year 2021, the chartered accountant certification was removed, and instead only the dealer is supposed to furnish GSTR 9C on his own. But presently also we know the capability of the dealer. So in majority of the case, still they are taking service of all CA practitioner, consultant, everyone, because it's not easy or simplified form that anybody or any dealer in a position to fill that form. So still though, even though they have removed section 35(5), but still according to me, the majority of the dealer are still taking the service of the CA practitioner and consultant for filling up 9 and 9C. Exemption, I already said that there was a notification number 10 by 2022. Up to 2 crore turnover, dealer are not supposed to file GSTR 9. Due date, I already said it is 31st December 2022. But mind well, looking at the scenario this year for income tax return, audit, etc., governments were not in a mood to extend. So don't wait for the extension. Start for preparation of GSTR 9C and file within the time. Don't expect, because this government is not liberal like what we have faced this year. Even though there were lot many problems in portal, etc., but they didn't extend that. So for GSTR 9 and 9C also, I don't think that they would extend. Hope for the best. Only one can make a representation like that table 8A. 8A was not in a position to download. I don't know what is the today's position because I don't work on that. But I read the message in some of the groups that it was not possible to download 8A. As we know that in table we can get, every dealer can get after logging by using their ID and password, auto field GSTR 9 is available. This auto field is based on the returns in GSTR 1 and GSTR 3B what dealer has filed throughout the year. Based on that, auto field 9 is available. Whether to accept that auto field, considering that all data are correct, yes, you can accept. Otherwise, in majority, I would say 99.9%, there must be some changes, some differences. So we need to feed the data again, or we need to correct the data what we got it autofill GSTR 9. As we know, GSTR 1 is for outward supply, GSTR 3B is pertaining to all transactions of inward and outward supply, RCM, payment of tax, etc. Ideally, your data between GSTR 1, 3B and the book should be synchronous, should be tally, correct? But we hardly found that it would tally in majority of the case. As per press release, see, when this form came, we were not in a position to know which data to be filled, 1 or 3B. But at that time, because of that press release dated 4 June 19, they clarified that 3B file data to be considered as a bag, because in 1, that inward data was not there. So 3B, it covers both the data. So they came out with a press release that you need to take 3B as a base. Even they will clarify that if any outward liability which was remained to be paid while filing 3B, you can show that turnover in GSTR 9 and discharge outward liability. As I already said, all the 3 data, 1, 3B and books should be matched. But if it's not matching, then there can be 2 scenarios. Either tax not paid to the government or tax excess paid. So in the first case, we can declare that additional turnover, taxable turnover and discharge the liability. And if there is a refund, then we can't claim refund through GSTR 9. We should file a separate application in GST RFD 01A. Another, you can just understand the mentality of the government. When they want to take money from us, yes, they will permit to do any type of amendment for outward side. But for inward side, as conservative approach, no input tax credit can be availed or reversed through GSTR 9. Correct? So this is the mentality of the bureaucrats. Actually, they should have made it open that annual return, what is the meaning of annual return? It should be open for doing correction. Whatever mistakes were there in GSTR 1, 3B, they should have allowed us to do modification, as it was there in VAT also. Even in VAT, there were a possibility of revising the return. This possibility is also not there in GST. Now, even in annual return also, they are only allowing outward supply changes, but no inward supply. So whatever reversal of ITC you have to do it through DRC 03. As I have said, the formation of GSTR 9 is half-heartedly. Dealers are supposed allowed to make changes in outward supply, but not allowed to make changes in inward ITC. No additional. Suppose there may be possibility certain ITC were skipped while filing GSTR 3B, but still you can't claim that additional ITC through GSTR 9. Reversal is also not possible. Now, table 4. See, what is the first step? See, I will not explain each and every clause. Wherever I thought it fit, which is important or for clarification for the members, that point I'll touch upon. So, when you open the GSTR 9 table, 4 is important. That is meant for outward supply. First, what we have to do, we should not consider 1 presently. We should consider 3B and books of account. And whatever is the correct data, according to me, as per books, maybe more, maybe less, that you have to feed in table 4. whatever data you file in 3B, let it be. But if there is a change in the data of books of account as compared with 3B, you need to consider the actual corrected data, that is as per books. This table 4, what details they are asking from us? B2C, that is supplies made to unregistered dealer, B2C, export made with payment of tax, supply to SEZ on payment of tax, deem export. We know that deem export, which type of category are covered if you are selling your goods through export out, etc. But mind well, merchant export sales would not be treated as a deem export. It would go in B2B. Then advance on which tax has been paid, but invoice has not been issued. What is the meaning of that? See, in majority of the industry, the system of advance is there, specifically in construction industry, major projects. We all are aware in turnkey project, to start the project, to finance the project, the contractor needs money, or like a mobilization advance is there, or material advance for material, labor, etc. So the principal would give certain advance to the contractor, and as per the provisions of GST, the moment you receive the advance, you need to discharge your GST liability, whatever it may be, IGST or C plus A, CGST, SGST as applicable. So upon receipt of the advance, you need to discharge GST liability. Further, against that advance, definitely you will raise an invoice, maybe in different part. See, in the terms and condition of the contract, there might have been mentioned that 10% of the advance to be adjusted in each of the invoices or any other terms and condition. So in that case, what you will do, whatever GST you paid on advance, and corresponding to that, whenever tax invoice have been raised, you have to adjust that advances in that, and on balance, you have to discharge your GST liability. So there should not be dual liability, correct? Because the GST liability you already paid at the time of receipt of advance, and now at the time of tax invoice, raising tax invoice, again on total turnover you should not discharge. You have to adjust that advances as applicable as per the terms and condition of the contract, and on balance invoice tax value you need to discharge the liability. But there are certain advances which are not yet adjusted, because advance is an ongoing process. It's not a one-time transaction. Every time during the continuation of contract, every time that requires advance would be required, and it would be adjusted whenever the corresponding work is being done and invoice have been issued. Inward supplies on which tax is to be paid on reverse charge. As we know, on certain category of person, reverse charge mechanism is there. This concept they borrowed from service tax, correct? So what type of category? GTA, goods transport agency is there, then security services is there, then advocate fees, etc. These are the various categories who are covered under RCM. So under RCM, we all are aware that recipient has to discharge the GST liability. So if dealer is a recipient of this type of service, maybe from say GTA, maybe from security service provider, or maybe from advocate, then they need to discharge their GST liability as a recipient of the service. After that, credit note and debit note. Whatever credit note and debit note you issued during the financial year, mind well, during the financial year, that is 21-22, that is between April 21 to March 22, whatever credit note, debit note you have issued, that you have to mention over here and amendment made. We must have come across that suppose we have issued the invoice of 1 lakh rupees, but later on we came to know if there is a changes in the invoice, say reduction in the sales value. So there are also chances that 10,000 is reduced. So we do the correction through amendment, correct? So here, what you have to do, suppose 100 rupees is the transaction, and at the time of issuing tax invoice, you must have shown 100. in GSTR 1. Then there is a reduction or change in the value. Instead of 100, it became 90. So there is a reduction of 10. So when you fill the data, you have to take care. Suppose if it is B2B, then in table 4B, you have to mention 100, and 4L, there is a reduction, or through amendment, you have to put 10. Correct? So net 90 would reflect. After putting all this, 4N, this is a crucial table. 4N, 5N. I'll tell you why it was crucial whenever that point would come. So this is table 4. But prior to this notification number 14 by 2022, it was made optional. You can say this credit note, debit note, amendment, you could have mentioned, net it off in the above category, that is 4A to 4F, 4E rather. Whatever credit note, debit note, amendment transaction, you could have net it off in above table, and no need to mention separate figure for this 4I, JKL. But now, close 4A to 4G, it is compulsory if it is applicable to you. But close 4I to 4L, that is credit note, debit note, amendment made plus or minus. Earlier it was optional, but now it is compulsory to mention that. Now it is not optional. So please keep it in your mind. Forget about the old provisions. We have to follow the new one. So according to that notification, now these 4I, JKL to be mentioned separately and do not be netted off. RCM, close 4G. See, this is also a very debatable issue, RCM credit and all that thing, but that I'll take up later on. But RCM to be shown where and when in GSTR 9. So I would refer the earlier press release dated 3rd July 2019. In that they have clarified that RCM pertaining to 17-18 paid in 18-19, then you have to mention that RCM figure in 18-19 itself and not 17-19. Though it was pertaining to 17-18. Same analogy would be applicable for current year. If 2021 RCM paid in 21-22, you need to show in 21-22. And if RCM of 21-22, if you paid in 22-23, then you have to reflect in GSTR 9 of 22-23. Here I have taken live example. Suppose advance received in the year 2021 and 21-22, say ₹100 each. दोनों साल में 100 मिला है, and tax invoice has been raised during financial year 2021 and 21-22 of ₹400 each, wherein the said advance has been adjusted while preparing the invoice. In the advance have been adjusted, correct? So on balance only they mentioned these are the tax liability when we issue the tax invoice to the buyer or the principal. But in GSTR 1 and 3B, it was forgotten to be considered that advance adjustment. Please understand, when you file 1 and 3B, you have forgotten to consider this advance adjustment. So still it was showing as unadjusted advance, correct? And in future, now the project is completed. Now there are no possibility to recoup that advance against any future GST liability. So what is to be done? This is a live example of my client and very big quantum. So how to give effect in the annual return 2021 and 2022, and can we claim the refund? Whether the said excess paid can be allowed to be claimed as a refund. See friends, let me tell you the department's mentality and department's view. As we all know, whatever type, no doubt we should consider section 54. They have specified various category of refund that is only allowable, but if you refer section 54(1), it clearly speaks about if any tax advance tax you paid and on advance, and if it is not adjusted throughout the year, you are entitled to claim the refund. So according to me, in 2021 and 21-22, we still have to show as a unadjusted advance. Correct? See, in table 4F, you have to show that unadjusted advance. Then only your claim for refund would stand. Though till now, department is not in agreement with us. They are considering 102 circular number 125. See, those who have referred, but for your understanding what that circular speaks about, they say that if you have received the advance and if you have not done the work and you have refunded that advance by issuing refund voucher to the principal, then you are entitled to claim the refund. See, these type of contingencies they have given in the circular, this is just a clarificatory in nature. It doesn't mean that other than this contingency, the other type of transaction would not covered for refund category. See, we try to convince in central GST, but as we all are aware, their mentality, they didn't agree. As on today, we are in appeal for the 6th period. Now let's hope what would be the fate. But this type of practical difficulties we are facing, and we have to fight with the department, and lower level we all know they don't want to take any risk, even they don't want to apply their mind because of having huge power they are using against us, and unnecessary troubles are being created and we all have to run behind them. Table 5. Here, exempted category of turnover we are supposed to mention, like export, zero rated export without payment of tax, that is against LUT, we all are aware. Supplies to SEZ without payment, then supplies on which tax should be paid by recipient on reverse charge. It means those person like advocate or GTA whose liability is being discharged by the recipient under RCM. So that type of category of dealer are supposed to mention that amount over here. Exempted, nil rated, non-GST includes no supply. Then total, and then credit note, debit note made during the year for above type of transaction. Similarly, amendments made plus or minus during the year for exempted category of transaction. See here also, if you look at 5N, this 5N is 4N plus 5M minus 4G. 4G is RCM, inward supplies on RCM. Correct? This 4 and 5N will also help us to feed the data in GSTR 9C. Here, table 5ABC, like exempt category. What is 5ABC? Zero rated export, SEZ or RCM are compulsory to fill. But regarding 5D, 5E and 5F, exempted category, nil rated or non-GST supply includes no supply. Here they have given you as an option as per notification number 14. Either you can show separately 5DEF, or you can show 5D, that is exempted, and 5 nil rated under 5D itself, and show 5F separately. See, just think why they want 5F separately. Correct? Just to apply reversal ratio, reversal of ITC ratio. So one must take care while filling up the data. Here, credit note, debit note, again as usual, they have allowed us, they have made it optional. You can put it net figure in above that 5 ABCD, whatever it may be there, instead of showing separately, unlike table 4. Here they are not asking because here there is no inclusion of GST. Table 9. See, I am taking first outward supply, then I will go for inward supply. So table 9, here you have to keep it in your mind that tax payable from where you will pick up the figure, tax payable, because the paid figure, as we know that it would come automatically, depend upon your 3B file, correct? Whatever tax you paid through 3B, that would be picked up over whether paid in cash, whether paid through ITC, it would directly being picked up over here. So you are not allowed to feed the data in this. But tax payable, under tax payable, from where did you get the figure? You have to consider table 4N. This is very important. You have to consider table 4N, and that figure you have to pick up from table N and you have to put in table 9 tax payable. See, yesterday only I was finalizing one party's GST audit. One very interesting case we came across, just I'll share with you. In that, what was happened, that there was a sale of car or sale of assets which was sold before 5 years, means within 5 years. So as per that section 44, we need to do calculation for reversal of ITC, correct? Because at the time of purchase, we must have taken full ITC. But since we have sold within 5 years, that section 44(6) would be applicable, and accordingly reversal of ITC would be there. What client did? Client consider sale value, say it is 1 lakh rupees, and they would discharge GST liability on that. But as per section 44 subsection 6, what it speaks about, that either sale value or reversal of ITC amount, whichever is higher amount, that need to be considered for GST liability. So in our case, my sale value was 1 lakh and reversal of ITC was 1,20,000. So on 1 lakh, client has already discharged the liability. So what is to be done for that? 20,000. And they have clearly mentioned you have to discharge that liability as an outward supply or output liability, like this. So what practically, there is no solution readily available, but what practically we did, we have mentioned that others category over here in this. We have mentioned that others category 20,000, difference only, because 1 lakh is already being covered, correct? So we mentioned others category over here. So that difference 20,000 GST liability would arise. So practical way out, we took it this way. Now table 10 and 11. Table 10, whatever outward supply transactions pertaining to 21-22 are there, but you have given effect or reflected in next financial year, that is 22-23 up till 30th November 22. As we are aware, up to last year, the due date was September return. That was 28th October, whatever, 21 was the last day. Before that, you need to consider amendment, ITC reversal, everything was to be considered in that. But now they were amended, they were allowed us to consider all the transactions which the supplier or the buyer can give the effect up till 30th November 2022. No doubt, we know that GSTR 1 date is 11 or 13 and 3B is 20. But if one can extend or file the late GSTR 1 3B, the date was 30th November. There was no logic, I understood. Why 30th November, and instead of that, they could have given actual date, the effective date, like due date. But anyway, they have said up to 30th November 2022, dealer can make the amendment of outward and inward, whatever it may be, or 30th November 22, or annual return, date of filing annual return, whichever is earlier. But I don't know that practically it is possible that annual return would be filed before that. Anyway, if those who have filed, fine enough, then for them, that would be the date to be considered for amendment. Otherwise, rest is 30th November. So if addition or deletion in sales amount or outward supply amount to be reflected in table 10 and 11. Correct? Then if there is an amount in 10 or 11, that need to be mentioned in table 14, because we know that whatever transactions which were pertaining to earlier year, that is 21-22, that must have been considered in 22-23 return. Correct? So at that time we must have paid the tax or taken the credit, depend upon the transaction. So if there are any transactions which are reflected in 10 or 11, we need to mention that amount in table 14, payable as well as paid. Here there are, you may come across, there are only reduction. Only the figure is there in 11. There is no figure in 10. So here mind well, you have to put minus figure. Minus figure is being accepted. So please bear in your mind. Otherwise, plus minus 10 minus 11. And if only 11 is there, put minus figure over there under both the table, payable and paid. Reconciliation, just according to me, I have just formed for our satisfaction. How you can reconcile whether the figure what you put it is correct or not, or tax payable what you arrived it is correct or not. First, you have to take total tax paid through GSTR 3B FY 21-22. That would reflect in table 9, GSTR 9 or table 9. Tax short paid in 2021 means tax was pertaining to 2021 but paid in 21-22. You have to reduce. Similarly, advance payment. Say you paid tax of next year 22-23 tax paid in 21-22. You have to reduce. And similarly, excess tax paid in 2021 adjusted in 21-22. You have to add. And tax pertaining to 21-22 paid in next year, that is to be added. After doing this plus minus, you can arrive the tax payable for FY 2021-22 as per books. Correct? You can try, you can check. But if there is a difference, it should be tally. It should be tally. But if there is a difference, then what would be the situation? The dealer must have paid the tax to DRC 03. That is also possible because DRC 03 payments are not being reflected in GSTR 9. Or dealer must have paid or might have paid additional tax by mistake, which are to be claimed as a refund, or ITC reversed in case. So these are the possibility which I have visualized, that if there is a difference, then because of this type of contingency, the difference might have been arise. This is very important, but I'm not sure how many of us or how many of the practitioners are following this notification number 79 by 2022. What it speaks about, as per the said notification, in table 6B-CD, that is ITC table, you have to take figure of ITC of current financial year only. Whereas your 6A figure, which comes automatically based on 3B, it would cover both the years figure of ITC, like 2021 credit taken in 21-22 and 21-22 credit. Correct? So practically, in fact, let me admit, I am also not following this notification, what it may come, because if you follow this notification, then what you have to do in table 6, auto figure would come in table 6A based on 3B, correct? But below 6B, CD, etc., you need to feed the data like input, service, capital goods, yeah, ITC on RCM, etc. You need to feed manual figure. And if you follow this notification, then you will feed the data of only 21-22, whereas in table 6A, it would consider both the figure. So always there is a difference. Always there is a difference which would arise over here as well as in table 12 of GSTR 9C. So to avoid the, as we know, the mentality of the department, once they say difference, they will start issuing the notice. Why difference is there? correct, without applying the mine. So to avoid that further litigation, no doubt, legally speaking, we must follow this notification number 79 because it's a notification. We must follow that. But let's wait. Till now, we have not faced any problem, and this is applicable from 2021 onwards. So last year also we have not followed. I don't know how many of you are following this notification, but if you go strictly as per the notification, you need to feed the data on actual basis, actual ITC. Matlab only 21-22, not actual, 21-22 claimed ITC. That only you have to mention. As I told you in my beginning of my presentation, that ITC you can't modify. Here you can't put the figure of books because you are not permitted. Correct? As per their instruction, you need to take 3B data only. But in 3B also, as I already said, in table 6A, it would pick up actual figure. So in that figure, even 2021 credit taken in 21-22 or reversal, whatever it may be, would be considered in table 6A. But when you feed only 21-22 ITC figure, which you claim in the 3B, the difference would always arise. Now call is up to you. See here, as I say, table 6A is automatic. You can't do any modification. That comes by default based on 3B. Correct? 6B, inward supply. Here also you need to mention input and capital goods compulsory. Input service, you can edit in inputs. Regarding inward supply received from unregistered dealer on which tax paid under RCM, it will be in table 6C, and if transaction is from registered person, then table 6D. Correct? Then import of goods. This is also important. 6E. Why it is important? See, if you remember, there were a press release date of both, in fact, 4 June and 3rd July. The question arises at that time, if IGST on import paid, say during 2021, and claim that ITC in 21-22. So in which annual return you are supposed to mention that figure? They have clarified that time that you have to mention that IGST on import, you have to mention in the year of payment and not in the year of credit taken. Correct? So according to me, when you fill this table 6A, don't just directly go as per ITC claim in which year you have to consider. But specifically for IGST on import, my suggestion, even my view is that whatever IGST you paid, whether claim in return or not, you need to mention in table 6A. And by virtue of that, difference would also arise. Let me tell you, difference would also arise in this table as well as in next year table. Correct? Because in 6A, that figure would not be there. In 6A amount, that IGST on import would not be there because you are not claimed. But here we are mentioning that amount because of IGST paid on import in the current year, even though it is not claimed. So mind well, in table 6C, irrespective of claiming ITC in whatever period, you have to mention that 6E for goods. Import of service, 6F. Then input tax credit received from ISD, input service distributor. We all are aware what is the position of input service distributor. The big companies are having various branches. They need to take separate ISD number to distribute that common ITC throughout the branches as applicable. Correct? For that, there is a use of ISD. Then amount of ITC reclaim under the provisions of the Act. Here, what type of transaction would come? 180 days wala transaction. Correct? Then after, ट्रांजिशन क्रेडिट थ्रू ट्रांसफर टू 21-22 में नहीं आएगा, 22-23 में it may come because they reopen that. Any other ITC, what would be covered in that? I'll take up now. See, table 6B is compulsory. 6C and 6D, either you can show separately or you can merge with 6D. 6E, I have already explained, IGS on import. 6H, rule 37. What it speaks about, if you have purchased any goods, inward supply is there or service is there, and if you have not made the payment to the supplier within 180 days. Earlier it was 90 days in service tax, now it is 180 days. Then you need to reverse your ITC and you have to discharge your GST liability to the extent of reversal of ITC along with the interest. Correct? This is the provision. No doubt there are amendments in rule 37.1 and 37.3 that I'll take up later on in my further slides. But for this clause, इसमें क्या आएगा कि अगर आपने within 180 days में पेमेंट नहीं किया है तो you need to reverse. समझो आपने 180 days के बाद पेमेंट किया है, then again you are entitled to claim ITC on the same transaction. Correct? So one way is what? Reversal of ITC, pay the tax along with the interest. 2 महीने के बाद जब भी वो पेमेंट हुआ है, you again reclaim that ITC. But practically, I'm sure hardly any of the dealer is doing this way of transaction. The practical way out, if it is during the financial year, what we do in our client, we discharge interest liability. We don't do reversal of ITC, payment of tax, interest, and again reclaim. We just discharge the interest liability on the said transaction. Correct? But otherwise, if the person who is doing reversal of ITC then reclaim, then that transaction would cover in 6H. 6M, any other IT, उसमें क्या आ सकता है? According to me, suppose there is a conversion from composition dealer to normal dealer. So as we are aware that composition dealer were not supposed to claim any ITC. Agree? But normal dealer here. So if composition dealer is converted to normal dealer, then whatever stock on the date of conversion on hand and whatever ITC included in this, that would come under any other ITC. Similarly, the new dealer who is taking registration and up till the date of registration, whatever stock on hand on the date of registration is there, they are entitled to claim ITC. You must have seen that revised invoice and etc. Correct? So here that ITC you can claim. This type of contingency, this type of ITC you can claim under table 8M. Then 12 and 13. What it speaks? 12 and 13 ITC claimed in 21-22. मतलब current year में आपने ITC claim किया है, but for some reason being ineligible or whatever may be, you reverse that ITC next financial year, that is 22-23. That would come under table 12. And similarly, ITC of 21-22, which you claim in 22-23, that would come in table 13. Reversal of ITC, various type of rules are there. Rule 37, 180 days, just now I explained. Rule 39, it is pertaining to ISD, input service distribution. Rule 42, exempt category of turnover along with the taxable turnover. So proportionately, we have to disallow our ITC qua exempt turnover. Rule 43, capital assets. If you have sold any assets within 5 years, reversal would be done in rule 43. 17.5, we all are aware, ineligible ITC. Correct? Now in new return, the 3B, they earlier that was optional, or that amount of 17.5 was not being considered in calculation, but now they wanted separately to be mentioned and to be considered in calculation. Reversal of transfer and credit transfer, it would not come for this year. and other reversal. What would come in other reversal? Suppose normal dealer converted to composition scheme. Correct? So normal dealer must have claimed the ITC, whatever purchase they've made. But when they convert into composition dealer, so on the date of conversion, whatever stocks are on hand, they have to reverse that ITC in any other ITC. This we have to keep it in our mind. 8. This is very Herculean task. Everybody is fed up with this. 8. 8A, it is coming directly. Correct? We know that. 2A, the wall is 2A, but actually it is not 2A because we know the difference between 2A and 2B. 2A is what? It is an ongoing updation process. Even though dealer who is filing their GSTR 1 after the due date, say 30th November 22 for financial year 21-22, still it will reflect in 2A. Suppose dealer ने कोई December में return भरा 1, तो भी 2A में आएगा, but 2B में नहीं आएगा. Similarly, it would not be reflected in 8A, which is coming automatically. Correct? So 8A is the base. 8A separately portal पे से भी मिलता है. So I think according to me, correct me, I am not sure because I have not come across or seen practically 8A, 2B, etc. Just under discussion, it came to me with my staff. So 8A, from 8A or 2B rather figure would be picked up over here. 8B, that would be figure directly picked up from table 6B and 6H. Agree? 8C, 8C, what it speaks about? ITC pertaining to 21-22 and claimed in 22-23. See here, they've missed the word reversal. See here, even in 9C also, they've missed the word reversal. So we have to keep it in our mind. Here 8C में plus और minus दोनों figure आएगा. 13 minus 12. आपका जो claim किया है current year ITC claimed in next year as well as current ITC reversed in next financial year, that would come in 8C. That you have to keep it in your mind. Here 8T or 8F, this is also mandatory. अभी तक हम लोग क्या करते थे, या तो fill ही नहीं करते थे because of breakup not available or to avoid further litigation. Correct? But now you have to fill that 8E, 8F. Then 8G, IGST paid. This is very important. That 6E I told you in my earlier slides. See, here IGST paid on import of goods. Here I would request you to put the actual IGST paid during the year. So once you put, and in 6E, 6E में, as I already said, even though you not claim ITC, you put that figure in 6E, so that 6E figure would reflect in 8H. So there would not be any difference. Correct? Otherwise, difference would be there. Why they came out with this type of details? There are some type of dealer like हवाला dealer या undervaluation वाले करते हैं या import कर लेते हैं, bill घुमा देते हैं, they are not showing. So they are asking how much IGST you paid and how much you claim. If you have not claimed, then it would be lapse. Agree? ITC available but not available on import of goods, and finally it would be lapse. So we must take care while feeding the data of that IGST on import, because some cases I came across, they don't fill the data of 8G, क्योंकि 8H तो automatic आ जाता है, लेकिन 8G वो भूल जाते हैं, not aware, then that difference would always there. But we have to take care, we have to feed the data of actual IGST paid during the year on imports. As we know that even in the press release also they have said this table is only for information purpose, they will not be used for notice, etc. But we are not sure whether they will use this table for issuing scrutiny notice or what. Regarding that 36.4, now we all now are aware. Now it's of no use. It is redundant now. Now, whatever ITC is available in 2B, only that much we are eligible to claim ITC. So now that matching, mismatching gone, so it's of no use. 88F, even minus figure in 8C, they are accepting minus figure. I told you na 13 minus 12. So minus figure is there, still it will accept. Earlier it was not accepting, but in 2021 onwards it is accepting. Now reasons for mismatch in ITC 2A, 2B. The first possibility is counterparty did not file 1. Counterparty filed GSTR1 with our bill shown in B2C, or counterparty filed GSTR1 with our bill shown with GSTN of other party. Then counterparty they have filed GSTR1 wrongly claimed as a composition dealer, and counterparty has filed the GSTR1 without our bill. So these are the just various possibility of match mismatch of in 2A 2B. अभी 2A 2B में तो हम लोग एक्सपर्ट हो गए होंगे. Every month we must be doing that matching exercise. Now table 15. This table is optional, but for your understanding, what details they are asking: total refund claim, refund section, refund rejected, refund pending, as well as demand raised, demand paid, and so on. Correct? What is the meaning of that? What is the meaning of that? Table 15. Which data we have to feed? Which data we have to feed in table 15? Correct? Let me tell you, if you read the instruction, the word they have mentioned that details of all refund claim filed during financial year, maybe for different year. तो अगर आपने एक साल में 3 साल का रिफंड एप्लीकेशन समझो डाला है फॉर एग्जांपल, तो तीनों साल का कंबाइंड करके टोटल रिफंड क्लेम, सैंक्शन, रिजेक्टेड, वो सब डिटेल भरना है इफ यू वांट टू फिल. अदरवाइज दिस टेबल इज ऑप्शनल. Table 16 also optional, but what type of detail they are asking? Supplies received from composition dealer, deemed supply under section 143. What type of transaction would be covered? Principal and job work. If any principal has sent the goods for job work purpose, and if it is not returned within 1 year in case of imports and within 3 years in case of capital goods, then it would be treated as a deemed supply by virtue of section 143. अभी वो आएगा, अभी पॉसिबिलिटी है. समझो लास्ट ईयर कोई ट्रांजेक्शन आपने भेजा है 2021 में या प्रायर टू दैट, still it has not come back and 1 year or 3 years have been closed, then we need to mention in deemed supply, even though it is made optional, but if the transaction is there, you need to feed the data. Goods sent on approval, if you send any goods on approval basis and if it is not written within 6 months, it would be treated as a supply transaction and liability is arise. This is also very Herculean task which was made optional up till now. Up to 2021 it was made optional, but now for 21-22 it is mandatory to be filled up. For that you can refer table 12 of GSTR1 or from your available data you can find out this. But mind well, the important thing is once you feel, just a moment. See what details they are asking. HSN core, UQC, then total quantity, taxable value, rate of tax, CST, CGST, GST, and so on. Here we come across, when you feed the data in this table, be assured there should not be a difference in calculation of even 1 rupee or even in paise also. Differences are not being accepted and this sheet is not being validated we just before 2 days, we face this issue when there is an error. Suppose you put 1 lakh and 18% is 18,000, but suppose you put 17,990 or 995 something, then it will show red color. So mind well, it will not be accepted. It's compulsorily you have to match that figure in total of this. Total of outward supply or total of table 17 should match with your table 5N of GSTR 9. Mind well, आपका ये जो total आएगा, this includes taxable, etc., whatever it may be, but that would match with your table 5N figure. So take care for filling up table 17. Fortunately, for inward supply, HSN wise summary for inward supply, they made it optional. Otherwise, so I don't know how people would feel. Practically, it is next to impossible, I would say. Correct? सेल में तो चलो कुछ भी डाला है, समझो 4 कोड 6 डिजिट कोड 4 डिजिट is applicable, but purchase side तो it would be a Herculean task. But fortunately this year they have not made it compulsory. But let's wait. We can't underestimate or we can't predict कि भाई नहीं आएगा next year. They may include this table also to be filled up. Lastly, late fees paid and payable. I told you, unlike 704 VAT audit report, which was supposed to give us tax payable, paid, etc. or refund, this annual return doesn't give this type of figure. Only they will ask late paid है, अगर आपका filing late है तो penalty late fee calculate करके देगा. That's all. बाकी कुछ helpful नहीं है. Just at a glance, ये आपको transaction which you book in various years where to reflect in GSTR 9. Suppose कोई particular transaction है जो आपने 21-22 में 1 और 3B में दिया है, next year में नहीं दिया है, तो टेबल आपका 4 and 9 में जाएगा. कोई ट्रांजेक्शन 21-22 में नहीं दिया है 1 और 3B, बट 22-23 में दिया है, टेबल 10 and 14 में जाएगा, 10, 11, 14 जो भी है. सपोज कोई ट्रांजेक्शन है आपका 21-22 में 1 में दिया है, 3B में नहीं दिया है, बट 22-23 में 3B में दिया है. तो आई टोल्ड यू 3B वुड बी द बेस, GSTR 1 वुड नॉट बी द बेस, तो आपका टेबल 10 and 14 में आएगा. समझो कोई ट्रांजेक्शन 3B में दिया है 21-22 में, 22-23 नथिंग, सो आपका 4 and 9. अगर खाली 1 में ही दिया है 21-22 1 में ही कोई ट्रांजेक्शन रिफ्लेक्ट हो रहा है, बाकी किधर भी नहीं है, तो आपका 4 and 9. देन खाली 3B में दिया है 22-23 में, तो 10-14. देन 22-23 में 1 में दिया है, इधर 3B में नहीं दिया है, देन 4 and 9, और कहां पे भी नहीं दिया है, देन 4 and 9. तो दिस जस्ट फॉर योर अंडरस्टैंडिंग, क्विक अंडरस्टैंडिंग. दिस आई हैव ऑलरेडी सेड कि भाई अभी जब समझो तो प्रैक्टिकल क्वेश्चन ऐसा था कि 2A 2B दोनों पैरेलल चल रहा था, और फ्रॉम अप्रैल 21 टू दिसंबर 21 2A और 2B दोनों था, बट जनवरी 22 से 2B कंपलसरी हो गया कि आपको 2B फॉलो करना है. करेक्ट? तो जब भी आप 9 के लिए बेस लेंगे तो क्या बेस लेना चाहिए, 2A 2B, क्योंकि आप टेबल 8A में दे आर मेंशनिंग 2A, बट अकॉर्डिंग टू मी 2A इज नॉट करेक्ट बिकॉज इट्स अ ऑनगोइंग प्रोसेस. It may be updated even after due date, prescribed due date, say 30th November 22. So according to me, we should go for 8A. Practical way out is 8A. I heard that some days back that it was not being downloaded, but I think now it must have been started. I hope so. Another issue, say for example, treatment of goods in transit. Suppose if you receive certain goods which are in transit, तो कोई एंथुसियास्टिक डीलर रहते, वो भी गुड्स आया नहीं है, बट दे मस्ट हैव क्लेम द आईटीसी, करेक्ट, कि भाई जल्दी चलो, लाइक वो कैलकुलेशन ऑफ कैश फ्लो इंटरेस्ट, दे विल बुक विदाउट रिसिप्ट ऑफ द गुड्स, इनवॉइस आ गए, आपने बुक कर दिया, आईटीसी ले लिया, बट legally speaking, if you refer section 16 subsection 2, unless and until you received the goods, the transaction does not get completed and you are not eligible to claim ITC. अगर आप लोग ने लिया है ITC for goods in transit, please reverse the same. E-invoicing made compulsory. Supplier head, suppose a practical question है कि कोई supplier is covered under e-invoicing, लेकिन कोई whatever reason, maybe due to his ignorance के I am covered under e-invoicing, he must have issued hard copy, paper invoice to the buyer, correct? So what would be the position, whether ITC claim by the buyer is allowed or not? It's a big question and really practical question. We must be facing this. Because we are not aware, though on portal they are giving the list of the dealer who are covered under e-invoicing, but we know practical difficulty. Every time we will not go and search on the portal कि भाई ये मेरा supplier वो e-invoice में है कि नहीं, because उसमें भी जो business करता है उसको तो कुछ पड़ी ही नहीं रहती है, उसको तो business से मतलब है, जो भी transaction करना है भाई लाओ माल लाओ पैसा लाओ जो भी whatever it may be, they are not concerned with legalities. Or as a consultant also we don't have time for check each and every supplier detail whether they are covered under e-invoice or not, so whether ITC to be available or not. So we will refer section 48.4 and section 48.5. 48.4 में they prescribe a particular class of dealers are covered under e-invoice and they have to generate IRN, invoice reference number. But you refer 48.5, what it speaks about, every invoice issued by a person to whom sub rule 4 is applicable, and if the dealer has issued the invoice other than the mention in 48.4, it means dealer ने paper invoice issue किया है in place of e-invoicing. Even though it was compulsory to issue invoice, then what they say, it shall not be treated as an invoice. उसका मतलब क्या है कि पेपर इनवॉइस का कोई वैल्यू नहीं है. अगर आपको ये इश्यू है तो पेपर इनवॉइस आपको मिलने, उसका आईटीसी मिलने वाला नहीं है. So mind well, this is very important. You will not be eligible for claiming ITC. So ITC would be disallowed. Now DRC 03. DRC 03 का क्या पोजीशन है? DRC 03 में we know that के maybe for outward liability which was not mentioned in the return or reversal of ITC etc. we are doing that and discharging that liability through DRC 03. Correct? But what would be the impact? What would be the impact in GSTR 9? Say one scenario is if taxpayer has paid tax through DRC 3 on outward supply before filing annual return, then in that case what we are supposed to do, intimate through letter to the jurisdiction officer. That is the more advisable. कि अगर आपने कोई ट्रांजेक्शन की लायबिलिटी आपने DRC 02 के थ्रू भरी है, I would suggest you intimate directly to your jurisdiction officer. If any taxpayer has paid the tax through DRC 03 and outward supply after filing of annual return, अगर annual return भरने के बाद आप liability जो additional liability आई which you are paying, so what you can do that you will make the payment and adjust through DRC 03 और वहां पे एक ऑप्शन आता है against annual return, so it will be taken care. Department would come to know that you discharge the liability of additional liability of GSTR 9. Or if the taxpayer is not paid through DRC on any outward supply before or after, Then what would be the impact in 9? According to me, no effect. No effect would come in GSTR 9 of DRC 03. Deemed supply transaction. Deemed supply schedule 1 item, we are knowing that if there is a sale of assets or on closure, or if there is a transaction between related or distinct person like HO to brand, principal to agent, etc. and so on. So वहां पे valuation part is very important. You have to follow the valuation rule and to check whether valuation is considered properly and liability has been discharged properly or not. ISD credit. See, for valuation, one AR is there, like Nerolac, Kansai Nerolac. In that, what has happened? They have raised the invoice. HO has raised the invoice in X value, not following the rules, but there is a proviso, and they went for AR. So in that AR, the authority hold that if the recipient, like say HO2 branch, if is claiming ITC, based on this stock transfer, then whatever value has been put in invoice by the sender or by the HO would be acceptable. This is also provided in the proviso of Rule 28. So whenever there is a question of valuation arise, then you can take help of this AR. No doubt another AR which is against the dealer is also there. Correct? So one should keep it in your mind and follow valuation rule properly. ISD, we know that common ITC. So यहाँ पे भी we have to take care whether only common ITC is being distributed or other ITC which are not even related with the various branches or recipient. So we have to take care only common ITC to be allocated. Like common ITC में क्या आएगा? Professional fees है, audit fees है, any legal fees are also there, and or separate, etc. Cross charge. ये cross charge जो है, we came across in majority of the cases they don't follow this cross charge. Basically, when cross charge would be applicable, say in case of multi-location, whenever say head office, here I will give an example. Suppose head office is having specific staffs who are working for all the branches also, and the salary is being paid from HO, or if you purchase software, etc., which is being used by all the location or all the branches, then in that case, and the cost is debited in HO. So according to me, whatever this type of transactions are there, the cost which have been borne by HO, ITC which was claimed by the HO, in that can benefit is being taken by various location of that HO, then cross charge bill needs to be raised. This is very important. Cross charge bill needs to be raised. And what would be the valuation part? Based on the turnover of the respective recipient branch or depot. This you have to keep it in your mind, that cross charge bill need to be raised. Mohit Mineral, we all are aware now, Supreme Court has held that that ocean freight, no GST liability on ocean RCM, under RCM for ocean freight. But what would be the position? It came, I think, in May 22. What would be the position of Mohit Mineral? Suppose कोई dealer ने क्या किया है? They have, for as a abundant precaution, they have discharged the liability under RCM and they have claimed the ITC. So for them, no issue, क्योंकि दोनों साइड आ जाएगा, आउटवर्ड में भी आपका आ जाएगा 4G में और टेबल 6 में भी ITC में आ जाएगा. लेकिन those dealer who has discharged the liability as a abundant precaution, but they have not claimed the ITC, that amount is still lying in case ledger. तो आप क्या करेंगे? Then in that case, you have to, if you are following that judgment, then don't show that outward liability in 4G. Don't show that outward liability in 4G and claim that amount as a refund, because that would show as an excess paid in case ledger. So claim that as refund, and even don't show in ITC also. Similarly, Munjal Bhatt case, in Munjal Bhatt Gujarat High Court case, they hold that, see, as per the provision, the dealers were entitled to claim 1/3 land deduction, correct? But in the Munjal Bhatt's case, Gujarat High Court say, if there is a separate value mentioned in the agreement, and then in that case, and that value is more than 1/3, then Gujarat High Court held that actual cost of land to be considered as a deduction. So if you come across this type of cases, you can take benefit of this Munjal Bhatt case. Another issue is recipient GSTR number cancelled by department after filing GSTR 1. Way to report under B2C और B2B. कि अगर आपका कोई डीलर है जिसका नंबर कैंसिल हो गया है, करेक्ट, तो आप उसको B2C में दिखाएंगे कि B2B में? सी प्रैक्टिकली बोलेगा तो इट्स वेरी डिफिकल्ट टू अंडरस्टैंड और टू नो वेदर माय बायर्स टू whom I have sold his number is cancelled. It's practically next to impossible. For safer side, I would say we still have to show under B2B only. Correct? But if you are sure, if you come across, then only you show it under B2C. Otherwise, we can take a stand. At the time of entering into the transaction, he was registered dealer. That's why I have shown under B2B. Whether ITC would be available to the recipient dealer when suppliers GST and cancel retrospectively. ये हम लोग day in day out हम लोग we are facing this issue. Correct? When we had purchased the goods, dealer number was active live. हमने ITC भी ले लिया है. अभी हमको मालूम पड़ता है भाई ये डीलर का तो नंबर कैंसिल हो गया है by whatever reason. So what would be the practical way out in this? According to me, डिपार्टमेंट क्या करेगा? वो तो पोर्टल में देखेगा, अरे भाई ये नंबर तो कैंसिल हो गया है, आई विल नॉट ग्रांट यू आईटीसी. बट लीगली स्पीकिंग आई थिंक दैट वुड not be only the base which department is taking. You can still fight for further forum, because you can argue that whenever this transaction took place, purchase transaction took place, at that time my vendor or supplier number was alive, and that's why we did the transaction and claim ITC. Afterwards number is cancelled, it cannot be said that he was not registered at that time. Even I have quoted one judgment, Kolkata High Court, in the case of Sanchita Kundu and others, wherein it was held that GSTN of supplier was cancelled after the date of transaction, the ITC of buyer is to be allowed. So you can take help of this judgment. Reporting wrong information, attracting penalty under section GST Act or not. Refer section 122(1) Roman 10. This is very important section and very huge impact. What is the provisions? Where a taxable person who falsifies or substitutes financial records or produces fake accounts or documents or furnishes any false information or return with an intention to evade payment of tax due under this act, then he shall be liable to pay a penalty of 10,000 rupees or an amount equivalent to the tax evaded, whichever is higher. This is very harsh provision, I would say. कि समझो कोई ट्रांजेक्शन आपने गलती से 10 लाख का 1 करोड़ कर दिया है, whatever it may be, wrongly, तो it will have a very huge impact because of this section 122(1) Roman 10. Because they are not only stick to only 10,000 rupees, they are saying 10,000 rupees or amount equivalent to the tax evaded, whichever is higher. But here, according to me, you can take help or argue if you come across or if you have this type of transaction. See, you can argue that return is prescribed under section 39, but your annual return is prescribed under rule section 44. So that you can argument put forth that because of this provision may not be applicable. Checkpoints Here various checkpoints have given, you can cross check, it is self-explanatory. Since the time is short, so I am not taking up this. Now coming to GSTR 9C, just a moment.
Well, we can extend for 10-15 minutes as we started. late.
Huh?
We can
Yeah.
extend for 10-15 minutes. As
Yeah,
we
yeah,
can-
no
we started.
problem. Thank
late.
you.
Yeah.
Thank you, thank you. Now coming to GSTR 9C reconciliation statement, or we were calling GST audit, but actually it is GST reconciliation statement. And as we know now that there is no CA or cost accountant certification is required. Various tables I have mentioned over there. Basic details 1 to 4, like GSTR number, then name of the dealer, tax under which it is covered, Income Tax Act, or like Companies Act, so and so. 5 and 6 for our gross turnover. Then 7, 8 RICO of taxable turnover. 9, 10 rate wise. 11 additional amount payable. 12 and 13 ITC RICO. 14 details of expenses. 15 reason of difference in ITC. And 16 tax payable, if at all, for difference of ITC availability. Suppose, as I said earlier, when that 35(5) provision was there, we were doing audit also. We were checking the data. No doubt, today that provision is removed, but still the clients are taking help of us. No doubt there is no certification, but as a prudent practitioner, we must take care and we have to do our job of this GST audit, or you would say reconciliation statement, with utmost care. We should not keep in our mind, "Arey, abhi apna kahan signature hai, chhod do, jo hoega dealer ka." Don't have that type of approach. Being a prudent practitioner or ethics, I would say, principle. So, considering that, if you are doing audit or if you are preparing or helping in preparing reconciliation statement, GSTR 9C, what you are supposed to do? First, we need to understand. Suppose client is a new one for you. You need to understand client's nature of business, in which industry it operates. We have to see that which type of transaction they are being carried out, like only supply is there or export import is there. Their entity structure, only single office is there or HO, branch, depot, etc. We need to prepare audit program. Then checklist, what we have to check, that you have to prepare. We need to refer financial statements which are audited under different act. We need to refer 3B1 and so on, related working. Outward supply, if you are filling table 5, that is for outward supply, then we need to first test check outward register. We need to check with tax invoice whether it is matching, the entries are matching with the supporting document, tax invoice are there or not. We need to match with 3B trial balance, financial, etc. Reconciliation, we need to tell our client to prepare reconciliation between 1, 3B, 9 and books of account or financial statement. In invoice, at a glance, we should see, is there any missing invoice in series? We should ask the question for that. We need to verify the contents of the tax invoice, correct? And we need to refer whether rules 46, 48 have been followed or not. Revenue recognition policy, because we know that accounting standard, which is being prescribed separately, we need to consider, because for income tax, we are following accounting standard. Even our revenue would differ based on the accounting standard, but for GST, for us, it would be a reconciliation item. We need to see that. Then we have to see supply mates in loads or installment, etc. एक्सपोर्ट में आपको LUT देखना है. एडवांस अगेंस्ट गुड्स तो अभी निकल गया है नवंबर 17 में, लेकिन सर्विसेज है तो आपको देखना है कि भाई एडवांस कितना मिला है. You have to ask for the tabular format. Opening advances during the year, advance received, adjusted and closing, because that table would help you to fill the data of GSTR 9 and 9C. फिर जॉब वर्क आई ऑलरेडी एक्सप्लेन, अगर 1 year और 3 years में नहीं आ रहा है इनपुट्स एंड कैपिटल गुड्स, it should be taken as a deemed supply. अगर आपका ट्रांजेक्शन में गलती से C और S की जगह पे I चला गया या I की जगह पे C plus S, you should make the correction. Now PMT 09 facility is there. Cross charge I already explained. It is to be raised if that type of transaction is there. Credit note register. Yes, we need to check credit note. पहले पोर्टल पे कंपलसरी मैचिंग कॉन्सेप्ट था क्रेडिट नोट का, अभी नहीं है. बट एज ए ऑडिटर और व्हेन वी चेक एज ए कंसल्टेंट वी नीड टू सी कि अगेंस्ट व्हिच इनवॉइस this credit note is being given, whether it has been issued during the prescribed time or not, because we know that for 21-22 prescribed time is 30th November 22. अगर उसके बाद क्रेडिट नोट इश्यू किया है, रिटर्न में दिखाया है, तो इट्स ऑफ नो यूज, इट वुड नॉट बी कंसिडर्ड एज ए डिडक्टिबल. Another, we have to see that section 34. See, if we refer section 34, every credit note is not allowable. Only credit note pertaining to goods return, rate difference, pre-agreed discount, damaged goods, and deficiency in service. Only these type of contingencies are there. Then only credit note would be permissible, and that too if it has been filed or issued and mentioned in the return within the prescribed time. For professional, we cannot cover under any of this category. We come across so many various situations कि भाई आपने 10,000 का बिल बनाया, वो डीलर बोलेगा अरे नहीं सर मैं 9,000 ही दूंगा. तो 1,000 रुपए के लिए we can't issue the credit note because we can't say there is a deficiency in service. So it's a big hurdle for professional specifically. Correct? Then पोस्ट सप्लाई अगर डिस्काउंट क्रेडिट नोट इश्यू किया है एज अ डिस्काउंट, वी नीड टू सी द एग्रीमेंट और एनी सपोर्टिंग डॉक्यूमेंट. वी आल्सो हैव टू टेक कंफर्मेशन फ्रॉम द रिसिपिएंट और बायर कि वेदर दे हैव रिवर्स द आईटीसी और नॉट. दिस इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट. इफ इट्स अ कमर्शियल क्रेडिट नोट विदाउट जीएसटी, वी शुड नॉट कंसिडर एट ऑल. दिस 30th November I already said. Now table 5. See, here we have to write the figure as per books of account, totally as per books of account. फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट आपके हाथ में रखना है आपको, और अगर मल्टीपल लोकेशन है और एवरी लोकेशन का अगर आपके पास फाइनेंशियल ऑडिटेड है, टेक कंसीडर इंडिविजुअल दैट फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट नहीं है तो ट्रायल बैलेंस यू कैन कंसीडर. करेक्ट. एंड रिस्पेक्टिव स्टेट का टर्नओवर आपको मेंशन करना है. Unbilled revenue, this would, from where did you get this figure? Accounting standard 7, A7 में से आपको फिगर यहाँ मिलेगा अनबिल्ड रेवेन्यू. Unadjusted advance at the end of the financial year. देखो ये एक important point I want to say over here. ये जो टेबल 5 है 9C का, ये unadjusted advance at the end of the financial year, this you have to take as per books of account. So उसमें आपका ओपनिंग आएगा प्लस रिसीव माइनस एडजस्टेड इन क्लोजिंग लाइक दिस. सो बेस्ड ऑन दैट एज पर बुक्स ऑफ अकाउंट यू हैव टू कंसीडर. बट व्हेन यू फील जीएसटीआर 9 टेबल 4F, वहां पे ड्यूरिंग द ईयर आपको जो रिसिप्ट हुआ है माइनस एडजस्ट हुआ है वही फिगर डालना है. सो डोंट गेट योरसेल्फ कंफ्यूज कि 4F में माइनस फिगर भी आ सकता है कि से फॉर एग्जांपल ड्यूरिंग देयर आपने 10 लाख रिसीव्ड किया है लेकिन 12 लाख एडजस्ट किया है. व्हाई? बिकॉज दैट 12 लाख 2 लाख जो एक्सेस है यू मस्ट हैव एडजस्टेड फ्रॉम योर ओपनिंग बैलेंस. बट जीएसटीआर 9 में ड्यूरिंग द ईयर वाला ट्रांजेक्शन आएगा एडवांस रिसीव्ड माइनस एडजस्टेड, वेयर इज इन 9C टेबल 5C यहाँ पे आपको एज पर बुक्स लेना है. So don't get yourself confused over here. Deemed supply, I already said schedule 1. Credit note ये देखो ये सब आज भी this is optional. It's up to you to fill or not. लेकिन normally majority of the person क्या करते हैं, जो भी difference आता है ना, क्योंकि 5Q जो है 5Q में annual return से figure पिकअप होएगा, ऊपर से जो भी प्लस माइनस हुआ डिफरेंस 5O में डाल दो. But I would say this is not the correct practice. Actually, wherever possible, if you have the data, please feed the data wherever it is available. as I say, adjustment should not be made under table 5 or merely to bring table 5 to nil. So please keep it in your mind. Acha, you may come across while looking at the financial statement, certain items are form part of P&L, like notice recovery, inward है, मतलब interest income, ये सब भी आपको consider करना है turnover में, mind well. ऐसा नहीं कि खाली हम ऊपर ट्रेडिंग अकाउंट ही देखेंगे, आउटवर्ड सप्लाई या इनवर्ड जो भी है, यू हैव टू लुक इन फॉर P&L अकाउंट आल्सो, एंड सर्टेन आइटम इवन दो इट इज not taxable, like interest income, it is not taxable, but you need to report that, you need to consider while filling up GSTR 9 as well as 9C. नोटिस पे रिकवरी है तो हम लोग इग्नोर करते भाई इसमें क्या जीएसटी इंप्लीकेशन, नो देयर इज अ जीएसटी इंप्लीकेशन. या समझो कंपनी ने रिकवरी फॉर फूड किया है स्टाफ से तो वो भी टैक्सेबल है. ये सब चीज आपको टर्नओवर में लेनी है. ये टेबल 7 फॉर एग्जेम्प्टेड टर्नओवर, तो 7A में तो 5P में से फिगर आ जाएगा. बाकी यू टू मेंशन योर एग्जेम्प्टेड टर्नओवर, जीरो रेटेड एक्सेट्रा, एंड यू विल अराइव एट 5F. ये फिगर आपको आ जाएगा 5F. नाउ टेबल 9 ऑफ GSTR 9C. यहाँ पे भी एक इंपॉर्टेंट हिंट आपको दे रहा हूं. आप यहाँ पे टैक्सेबल टर्नओवर लिखेंगे, ये सब मैन्युअल डालना है, ऑटोमेटिक कुछ नहीं आता है. तो आप क्या करेंगे, टैक्सेबल एज वेल एज RCM वो सब फिगर यहाँ डालेंगे, सामने कोरस्पोंडिंग विल पुट द टैक्स फिगर. और इंटरेस्ट में टैक्सेबल वैल्यू दे आर नॉट आस्किंग, जस्ट डायरेक्टली यू टू पुट इन अंडर टैक्स फिगर यू टू मेंशन इंटरेस्ट, लेट फी, पेनल्टी एक्सेट्रा. और जो अदर्स जो मैंने आपको एट द टाइम ऑफ टेबल 9 ऑफ GSTR 9 एग्जांपल दिया था कि कोई एडिशनल लायबिलिटी आपकी आ रही है, जैसा मैंने एग्जांपल सेल ऑफ एसेट्स और ITC, जो डिफरेंस है विच इज नॉट डिस्चार्ज, यू कैन डिस्चार्ज इन अदर्स कॉलम ओवर हियर, करेक्ट, आइदर इन 9 और 9C, वेरेवर यू वांट फिट यू कैन डिस्चार्ज. लेकिन एक यहाँ पे क्लू मैं आपको दे रहा हूँ, ये जो आपका टैक्सेबल टर्नओवर है, फॉरगेट अबाउट RCM, आई एम सेइंग टैक्सेबल टर्नओवर, उसका टोटल आप करो, दैट शुड मैच विथ योर फिगर 7E, इसके साथ मैच होना चाहिए. ये सब देखो, ये क्रॉस चेक कहाँ पे भी दिया नहीं है. फ्रॉम आवर एक्सपीरियंस आई हैव सॉर्टेड आउट एंड आई हैव प्रिपेयर्ड एंड आई हैव गिवन टेबल एट द एंड आल्सो क्रॉस चेक का कि कौन सा फिगर कहाँ से कहाँ मैच होना चाहिए. दिस इज self prepared exercise. There is no mention or any legal hold for that, but mind well to satisfy ourselves there is no mistake in form. So this 7E should match with your table 9 taxable amount, correct? Then after a comparison, you all are aware difference is there, you have to justify and give remarks in 10, 11 जो भी है. This you here, अगर if you receive the goods ITC in lots or installment, so you have to check that ITC would be available only on last lot receipt. That we have to keep in your mind. Then cases where consideration is not paid within 180 days from the date of invoice have to be verified. यहाँ पे important point is what happens when goods are received late due to any reason, or goods receipts are subject to quality approval etc. कि कंपनी में पॉलिसी है कि भाई मैं क्वालिटी चेक करने के बाद ही इनसाइड गोडाउन लूंगा और अप्रूवल दूंगा. तो माय क्वेश्चन इज 180 डेज जो रूल 37(1) में 180 डेज टू बी काउंटेड फ्रॉम द रिसिप्ट ऑफ गुड्स और फाइनल एक्सेप्टेंस और date of invoice. See, if you refer section 16 to subsection B, as we are aware, eligibility of ITC is based on receipt of goods. But as per proviso to section 16(2), which provides from the date of invoice, the word is from the date of invoice, where dealer fails to make the payment. So according to me, you have to consider 180 days from the date of invoice. and not the date of booking. This is very important point. You have to keep it in your mind because the day in day out we come across this type of situation. Whereas as per the unamended provision, prior to 1st October 22, 37(3) rule was there. What it provides, you have to discharge the interest from the date in which month you have claimed the ITC. Both are different. आपको 180 days काउंट करना है, वो आपको डेट ऑफ इनवॉइस से करना है, और इंटरेस्ट लायबिलिटी जो है वो आपको द मंथ इन विच यू क्लेम द ITC, वो डेट से आपको इंटरेस्ट कैलकुलेट करना है. बट नाउ फनी थिंग इज व्हाट, रूल 37(3) देव रिमूव, जो इंटरेस्ट का प्रोविजन था वो रिमूव कर दिया एंड देव मर्ज इन रूल 37(1). So what would be the position? The scenario would be what? That section mess up कर दिया वो लोग ने, जो combined करके, जो if you refer rule 37(1) which cover 37(3), but there is no clarity. What they mentioned, 180 days के बाद में, from the date of invoice, 180 days के बाद, 180 days you have to consider for disallowance of ITC and to interest also for levying interest, but it is silent from which date interest to be calculated. So accordingly, ideally, according to me, interest to be calculated from the month in which ITC is claimed. One another very big and troublesome, if you remember, under earlier rule 37(1), the word proportionate was there. Say for example कि 1 लाख का ट्रांजेक्शन है, मैंने डीलर से परचेस के 1 लाख, लेकिन मैंने पेमेंट 60,000 का ही किया है, 180 डेज क्रॉस हो गया, 40,000 या तो नहीं किया है या बाद में किया 3 महीने के बाद में. तो इन रूल 37(1) there was a specific mention that you should have reversed ITC to the extent of proportionate amount unpaid. लेकिन अभी ये proportionate ITC निकल गया है, तो उसका इफेक्ट क्या होएगा? डिपार्टमेंट, माई वरी इस डिपार्टमेंट में टेक स्टैंड, अभी प्रोपोर्शनल वर्ड है ही नहीं, तो देयर इज ए पॉसिबिलिटी द डिपार्टमेंट्स के आप बोल सकता है कि भाई आपने भले पार्ट पेमेंट किया है, बट सिंस प्रोपोर्शनल वर्ड डिलीट हुआ है, आई विल डिसअलाउ फुल ITC. So one must take care. I don't know what would happen further, but this will create problem because of removal of what? Proportionate ITC. यहाँ पे ITC checking, we all know. Only one point I want to just draw your attention, that you must understand rule 42 specifically. See, every month we are calculating and applying rule 42 based on the taxable goods and exempted goods, but as per the provisions you need to calculate annually also. आपने 12 महीने का कैलकुलेट करके रिवर्सल में दिखा दिया, लेकिन आपको पूरा साल का कैलकुलेट भी करना है, और बाद में जो भी इफेक्ट आता है दैट इज टू बी गिवन प्रायर टू 38 नवंबर फॉर दिस ईयर. मतलब तो अगर वो प्लस भी हो सकता है, माइनस भी हो सकता है, कि आपने रिवर्सल, वो भी हो सकता है ओवरऑल प्रोपोर्शनेट आप करेंगे कैलकुलेशन, तो जो रिवर्सल किया है उससे कम भी आ सकता है, तो यू टेक क्रेडिट ऑफ दैट, और ज्यादा भी आ सकता है, तो take reversal and discharge that liability. So please take care of that. Interest to be levied in the case of disallowance of ITC due to ineligibility. अभी इसमें भी there is some issue over here. Say for example, there are two type of disallowance. One is ITC claimed by the dealer, and बाद में मालूम पड़े या समझो ये ऑडिट हुआ या चेक किया, कंसल्टेंट ने बोला नहीं भाई ये ITC 17(5) में जाएगा, you are not entitled to take credit of this. तो interest would be applicable how much, और leviable rather, इस पे 18% लगेगा कि 24% करेगा लगेगा, because now there is a change in rule section 50 subsection 3. Whether it will have an impact or not, we will go through that section. ये जो सेक्शन 50 सबसेक्शन 3 अमेंडमेंट रिट्रोस्पेक्टिवली अमेंडमेंट हुआ है, माइंड वेल 1717 से ये अमेंडमेंट आया है। पहले क्या था सेक्शन में, वेयर द इनपुट टैक्स क्रेडिट हैज बीन टेकन अनड्यूली और एक्सेस आईटीसी टेकन, तो उस पे 24% लगता था। करेक्ट। नाउ द वर्ड इज वेयर द इनपुट टैक्स क्रेडिट हैज बीन wrongly availed and utilized. The word is wrongly availed and utilized, तो उसका मीनिंग क्या हुआ? फर्स्ट क्वेश्चन, wrongly का दो इंटरप्रिटेशन वन कैन टेक। वन इज कि wrongly मतलब बाय whatever way of mistake, गलती से लिया है, कोई भी मिस्टेक होने, जो चाहे इग्नोरेंस है या जो भी है, पर्पसली किया है, नॉट पर्पसली एग्जैक्टली, रॉन्गली मतलब कोई भी टाइप का गलती से मैंने आईटीसी लिया है, तो मुझे 24% लगना चाहिए। करेक्ट। तो पहले क्या वर्ड था? अनड्यू एंड एक्सेस क्रेडिट टेकन, तो 24% उस पर इंटरेस्ट लगता था। अभी वर्ड है रॉन्गली अवेल एंड यूटिलाइज, तो रॉन्गली अवेल एंड यूटिलाइज, ये यूटिलाइज जो वर्ड है उसका इट इज हैविंग अ बिग इम्पैक्ट। यूटिलाइज, इफ यू रिमेंबर दोस हु वर डूइंग प्रैक्टिस इन सर्विस टैक्स, दिस प्रोविजंस वर देयर कि अगर आपने आईटीसी लिया है, क्लेम किया है, मतलब बुक्स में लिया है या रिटर्न में लिया, लेकिन यूज नहीं किया है, आपका जो लाइक इलेक्ट्रॉनिक क्रेडिट लेजर में स्टिल योर क्रेडिट बैलेंस इज देयर, मतलब आईटीसी का बैलेंस स्टिल कैरी फॉरवर्ड है, तो इट मींस यू हैव अवेल्ड बट नॉट यूटिलाइज। अगर आपने यूटिलाइज कर दिया देन यू वुड बी कवर्ड, लेकिन आपने अवेल किया है, आपने दिखाया है, लेकिन आपका क्रेडिट स्टिल इट इज कैरी ओवर, it means more than that disallowance, still your ITC standing in your electronic credit ledger, you can very well say it is availed but not utilized. तो यहाँ पे इंटरप्रिटेशन, एक तो अगर अवेल किया है, समझो आईटीसी अवेल किया है, अभी मुझे लगा रिवर्स करना है, तो अगर यूटिलाइज नहीं किया है तो डेफिनेटली इंटरेस्ट ही नहीं लगेगा। फर्स्ट क्वेश्चन इज इंटरेस्ट ही नहीं लगेगा। अगर समझो यूटिलाइज किया है, समझो तो 18% लगेगा, 24% लगेगा, तो वहां पे इश्यू ऐसा है, रॉन्गली अवेल कैन वी टेक द इंटरप्रिटेशन ऑफ रॉन्गली मींस फ्रॉडुलेंटली, कैन वी टेक या ओनली दोस केसेस वुड बी कवर्ड कि भाई जहां मैंने गलती से नहीं, फ्रॉडुलेंटली बाय पर्पसली, मुझे मालूम है कि ये गलत आईटी से, फिर भी मैंने टू डिफ्रॉड द रेवेन्यू मैंने ये आईटीसी लिया है, तो वेदर इट वुड बी एप्लीकेबल ओनली टू दोस केसेस or any type of wrongly availed, any type of ITC wrongly availed would cover, it's a question mark. My view says government wrongly availed means they, I think it is a broader term, I would say कि कोई भी टाइप की मिस्टेक है तो आपको 24% भरना पड़ेगा if it is utilized. Correct. Otherwise they would have given deliberate या fraudulent, like this type of word they would have used, but since they have not used the word, according to me, any type of mistake wrongly availed and utilized, 24% interest would be applicable. But 180 days, आप 180 days का प्रोविजन देखेंगे ना, जो पहले 37(3) था, 180 days में they have specifically mentioned interest to be discharged as per section 50 subsection 1. तो 50 subsection 1 क्या बोलता है? 18%। तो 180 days में 18% लगेगा, लेकिन अदर देन दैट आपका इनएलिजिबल आईटीसी में 24%। ये टेबल 12 ए में एज पर बुक्स आपको लिखना है, 12A में। बी में आईटीसी बुक लास्ट ईयर में बुक किया, क्लेम ये साल में। सी में लाइक वो जो 12-13 था, बट दैट वाज एज पर रिटर्न एंड दिस इज एज पर बुक्स, दिस इज द बेसिक डिफरेंस। और यहाँ पे भी सी द वर्डिंग व्हाट दे यूज, बट अकॉर्डिंग टू मी आपको प्लस माइनस दोनों लेना है, मतलब एलिजिबल आईटीसी माइनस रिवर्सल ऑफ आईटीसी, ये दोनों आपको क्लोज 12B और C में लेना पड़ेगा। सी आई थिंक डिपार्टमेंट और दिस लेजिस्लेचर इज नॉट विजुअलाइज माइनस फिगर, अभी इसमें माइनस फिगर भी आता है, करेक्ट, लेकिन ओनली आईटीसी क्लेम नहीं लेना है। आईटीसी क्लेम माइनस रिवर्सल आपको 12B और 12C में लेना है एज एप्लीकेबल।
Mayur bhai, sorry to interrupt you. We
हाँ?
have been we are having 10 more minutes, so we can also take
Yeah, it will be
questions.
now covered up. It will be
Yeah.
now only say 6 to 7 slides
Ah,
are there.
5 minutes are there, so we can take questions also.
Yeah.
Okay.
12B and 12C is mandatory. Earlier it was not mandatory. So it is compulsorily to be mentioned now. 21, 22 ka 9C mein. Table 14, still it is optional to mention individually. It's up to you. I would prefer to give capital goods separate and rest. If it is available, give total, otherwise rest any other, or purchase, you give purchase figure and any other. It's up to you. और यहाँ पे आपको ये जो टेबल 14 में आप जो भरेंगे वैल्यू 1 और अमाउंट ऑफ आईटीसी, यहाँ पे आपका टोटल फिगर शुड मैच विथ 12A। 12A के साथ मैच होना पड़ेगा। और आपका जो ये 14S ये आएगा आपका 7J से फिगर आएगा, 7J ऑफ एनुअल रिटर्न। अगर डिफरेंस है, यहाँ पे डिफरेंस कौन सा आएगा आपका 12B माइनस 12C ऑफ GSTR 9C। माइंड वेल, अगर आपने यहाँ पे 12A का फिगर लिया है और ये जो भी डिफरेंस है अदर देन इनएलिजिबल, अगर समझो इनएलिजिबल नहीं है तो जो एनुअल रिटर्न के साथ कंपैरिजन करेंगे ना तो आपको डिफरेंस आएगा। दैट डिफरेंस इज नथिंग बट 12B माइनस 12C। दैट रिमार्क्स यू टू गिव। ये आपको क्रॉस टेल, ये सबके लिए बहुत हेल्पफुल है। आप खुद प्रैक्टिकली चेक कर लेना कि भाई ऐसा मेरा 9C का जो क्रॉस चेक है कि भाई वो टेली हो रहा है कि नहीं, टू बूस्ट अप योर कॉन्फिडेंस। दिस इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट टेबल। फाइनल आउटकम ऑफ 9C, additional liability might have come payable due to non-reconciliation or non-reconcilable ITC or outward। फिर कुछ सप्लाई इंक्लूड नहीं किया है 9 में, या रिफंड रॉन्गली अवेल और एनी अदर आउटस्टैंडिंग डिमांड सेटल। TDS TCS, यहाँ पे TDS TCS का 9 में कोई रिपरकेशन नहीं है, बट प्रैक्टिकली वी नीड टू क्रॉस चेक दैट एंड रिकंसाइल दैट। ई-वे बिल का भी 9 में कुछ रिफ्लेक्शन नहीं है, बट वी नीड टू क्रॉस चेक दिस। दिस इज इंपॉर्टेंट। RCM, सी RCM में से फॉर एग्जांपल 21-22 का RCM है, वो आपने दिसंबर 22 में भरा है, तो सिनेरियो क्या आएगा? यहाँ देयर आर टू व्यूज। आई हैव गिवन द सेक्शन also provided the section 31(3)(f), section 16(4) and section 9(3). See, one view is based on this. What 31(3)(f) is speaking about, that a registered person who is liable to pay tax under RCM shall issue an invoice in respect of goods, service, etc. from the supplier who is not registered. So this is self invoice. तो सेल्फ इनवॉइस एज पर प्रोविजन आपको 30 डेज में आपको इनवॉइस रेज करना है, दैट इज फर्स्ट प्रोविजन, करेक्ट। और सेक्शन 16(4) क्या बोल रहा है? रजिस्टर्ड डीलर शेल नॉट बी एंटाइटल्ड टू टेक क्रेडिट इफ इट इज योर रिटर्न इज नॉट फाइल्ड अप टू 30th नवंबर। और 9(3) बोलता है कि वॉट एवर प्रोविजंस आर एप्लीकेबल टू द रजिस्टर्ड डीलर, मीन्स ऑपोजिट पर्सन, द सेंडर वुड डायरेक्टली अप्लाई टू द रिसिपिएंट। तो my thinking is कि अगर मैंने विद इन द प्रिस्क्राइब टाइम, समझो 21-22 का RCM 30th नवंबर तक मैंने डिस्चार्ज नहीं किया या ITC नहीं लिया और बाद में लिया, तो कंसिडरिंग दिस ऑल दिस सेक्शन, माय व्यू सेज यू आर नॉट एंटाइटल्ड फॉर ITC claim. Another view speaks about, yes, since I have made the payment in December 22, so after payment I am entitled to claim ITC. But I leave it to you what stand you are taking. Penalty for non-filing of annual return 0.5% of the turnover for C and S. For 9C there were no specific penalty, correct? So general penalty as per section 125, 25,000 plus 25,000 was leviable. But now here there are two views कि 9 के लिए तो चलो 0.5% है, C प्लस है, लेकिन 9C के लिए if you read that section 44 44 में now they will include self-furnished and annual return, which may include a self-certified reconciliation statement. Can we say that a self-reconciliation statement is a part of annual return? It's an attachment to the annual return. So one view is that considering this language, the penalty which would be applicable to annual return, the same would be applicable to 9C. Another view say, no, it would be only general penalty would be applicable. Let's see what future will decide. But even my view says that general penalty would only be applicable. So friends, I have tried to conclude my presentation within the prescribed time, though I extended 5 to 10 minutes. I'm sorry for that. Before I conclude, I once again thank the organizers of NCTC, the president and his team, for giving me an opportunity to share my views on today's topic, intricate issues under GSTR 9 and 9C. And lastly, I thank all of you for patient hearing. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Now our president sir is with us. Since he was traveling, was not able to join. 1 second. Over to you, Ujjwal.
Yes, Jaydeep bhai. Thank you very much, Mayur bhai.
Thank
Sorry for the technical glitches at the start of the session. But I think Mayur bhai has very well covered the subject. The time allotted to him was only 2 hours like a T20, but he has covered the subject as if it was a full day seminar, right from basics to issues to the form, and everything
Ujjwal bhai,
has been covered very well.
Ujjwal bhai, we are still going to take questions. So if possible,
Yes,
yeah.
over to you,
Yes.
Jaydeep bhai, for questions and a few announcements which you can make.
Yeah. We'll allow participants to directly ask the questions. So if anybody wants to ask question, we'll just you can just unmute yourself and you can ask question. Hello.
We have few questions in the chat box also. In the
Yeah.
meantime,
Acha, before we jump to chat box, one practical question I wanted to ask. Suppose.
I cannot hear your voice properly. Please.
Hello. Hello.
Please થોડું જરા વધારે.
Sorry. Now you can hear?
Yeah, little bit more.
Acha. So my question was if I have skipped the sales in 21-22 of around
What?
I have skipped the sales invoices of
You
around
skip,
20
matlab you miss
Yeah.
the sales.
Yes, of 21-22, and I have showed that in GSTR 1 and 3B of 22-23 in September within prescribed time. So, and I have paid tax on that in September 3B, sir. So, is it required to pay tax in DRC 3 only, or we can pay in 3B also? That will be
No,
okay?
you can pay in 3B. No, it is allowable. As you say, as per the provision, you are allowed to disclose your undisclosed sales till 30th November. So you can very well show in your return. Abhi to time chala gaya, but
Yes.
I hope you must have shown prior to 30th November. Yes, you could have discharged your GST liability with interest.
Okay, so basically, we had come across in one of the GST audit where officer insisted to pay it in DRC 3 only. Otherwise, they are not able to recognize it, and there is a rule they say it that way.
No, there is no compulsion.
There is
It
no
is
compulsion,
very
right?
well, no compulsion. You can definitely show through your 3B and 1 and discharge your liability. It is
Okay.
allowable.
Okay, so we are moving ahead for other questions in chat box. There is one question: ITC on purchase return, whether it is to be netted out in table 4A surplus 5 or to be shown in other reversal in table 4B surplus 2 of GSTR 3B. Others.
Then you are asking question of 3B or 9 because today's topic is 9 and 9C.
Right.
So
So
here ITC on purchase return, whether it is to be netted out. Nibit purchase return, you can show a reversal separately, no? Why you want to net it out? In
Right.
3B, you show separately other reversal.
Yes. Party has not maintained stock register, then how to enter quantity details in table 17?
See, there is no practical way out for this. Table 17.
Yeah.
And as we know, majority of the case, even though stock register to be maintained is compulsory under GST, but hardly very few persons are maintaining stock details. So that is up to the dealer or his accountant to find out that quantity.
Right.
And I think I'm not sure, practically I have tested, even though you put 0, whether it is being accepted or not.
Right.
You can try without putting the UQC, but I think one red mark is there. If I'm not mistaken, there is a red mark, means it is mandatory. But you can put 0 and check whether it is acceptable or not.
Okay. In financial year 21-22, e-invoice not generated for few invoices by supplier but shown directly in their GSTR1. But same e-invoice generated in by 2022-23.
See here, what do you mean to say? What I understood.
Yes, then it is okay to claim same ITC. Yeah.
What I understood for FY22 invoice आपने generate ही नहीं किया है, but directly 1 में भर दिया है. But same invoice was generated in 22-23. So according to me, I already refer that section 48(5) or rule 48(5) in my presentation, that if you are liable to issue e-invoice, and if you have not issued or issued a paper invoice also, then it would be treated as a no invoice.
Right.
Correct? So you are not entitled for ITC.
ITC.
अभी जब भी आप 21-22 में they would not issue e-invoice, तो जब भी आप claim करेंगे ITC, so at that time scenario would be you don't have an invoice on your hand.
Right.
Or even though paper invoice, it's a wrong invoice. So
Right.
ITC might have been disallowed. Correct? आपने e-invoice क्या है 22-23 में.
Right.
So that question may arise. अगर आपने ITC पहले ले लिया है, e-invoice बाद में लिया है, then the question क्या आएगा? तभी जो ITC लिया है, that would be a wrong ITC claim. और अभी 22-23 समझो within prescribed time उसने e-invoice किया है, you are entitled. Then you have to reverse your ITC, pay with interest, and again reclaim like this.
Achha. Okay. If we say next question, if we show B2B for dealer whose number is cancelled, the website does not upload the turnover for that dealer, and every time we have to watch for PAN portal, else show B2C.
This point I have also taken in my presentation, because we are helpless in that. We are not in a position to know कि सामने वाला dealer is alive or not practically. तो मेरा जो issue मैंने लिया तो उसमें I said कि so far as at the time of entering into outward supply transaction he was alive, put it in B2B, and if you are aware कि नहीं भाई real में cancel हो गए, go for B2C.
Okay.
Because in both the scenario उसको तो credit मिलना ही नहीं है. If the buyer's number is cancelled, उनको तो ऐसे भी credit नहीं मिलना.
Right. So next one is GSTR1 not letting use file in B2B if customer.
तो same issue है.
Yes, same. Yeah, apart from this, one second. Table 14 is compulsory of 9C. Is it compulsory or not? That is asked.
Which point you are referring?
Table.
अच्छा table 14. उसके ऊपर भी एक issue में पढ़ रहा था.
Yes. So I will read.
Okay, now I'll answer first table 14.
Okay.
Table 14 is not compulsory. It is optional.
Optional.
But preferably you give separate figure for capital goods.
Right.
And rest combined.
Okay. So another which I missed.
This another issue is we have taken the last year credit in the month of September 21 and later on we realized that we have taken excess of ITC credit. Then we reverse in the month of January. How to show in annual return filing in 6. First of all, though, last year credit means 2021 ka credit, what I understood, has taken in September 21, correct? Now, then we reverse in the month of January 22. How to show in annual return in the table 6.7 and table 10.11. See, practically table 6.7, we have to strictly take, according to my knowledge, as per 3B. We have to take strictly take as per 3B. अगर आपने 3B में वो रिवर्सल दिखाया है, करेक्ट, तो आपका वहां पे भी दिखने वाला ही है,
राइट,
टेबल 6A में भी आपको मिलना ही है वो फिगर,
राइट,
तो you can't modify the data of 3B.
ओके,
Please take care. 10-11 तो नहीं आएगा, 10-11 is for outward, 12-13 है, 10-11 would not be applicable, 6-7 is for ITC है, तो go as per strictly for 3B.
ओके,
I think that because we are not allowed to modify the data. नहीं तो हम लोग बुक्स का भी डाल सकते थे, but we are not permitted to modify. अगर 3B में आपको दिखाया है तो it would reflect in your 6A table.
right.
And accordingly you have to feed the manual data.
Is ITC unavailed or lapsed to be compulsorily reported in GSTR 9 and 9C?
Is ITC unavailed or actually 8E and 8F? Yes, it is compulsory to be reported in 9.
Okay. So that was the last question. I don't think so any other questions are there. So Ujjwal bhai, over to you if you are online.
So can I ask one question?
Yeah, sure.
Sir, I have a question regarding the
Yes.
purchase return, which you have answered first, right? Purchase return.
Right.
Whether it is to be shown in 4A or 4B of GSTR 3B. You said it is being shown separately as a reversal. But if you will see the GSTR 3B, para 6A, that the ITC would pick up figure from the 4A. Are you with me, sir?
Mayur bhai,
In GSTR.
Yes, I can't hear.
can you be louder?
Yeah,
Who is this?
This is Chetan. Chetan.
Yeah.
Gavaria.
Chetan ji, can you speak louder?
Yeah. See, in GSTR the 9, para 6A, that ITC is considered from table 4A of GSTR 3B. Right. Now, in respect of goods return, that purchase return, if we show that return in other reversal, which is a part of 4B, then in that case, in annual return, GSTR 9 will show ITC more than what I am eligible.
Okay.
You mean to say in table 6A, reversal is not being considered. I am aware about that. That problem is there.
Right, sir. So then in that case,
Am I right? No, what your point is that only, no, in 6A,
Yes, sir.
reversal figure is not being considered.
Right.
Only claim figure is considered, correct?
True.
Yeah, that problem is there.
That problem is okay.
Okay. So over to you, Ujjwal bhai.
So please, I think Khushbu, thank you very much, sir. We would like, Jaideep bhai, you have any announcements to make before Khushbu can give a vote of thanks?
Announcement is for non-members who are willing to become member of MCTC, they can take advantage of life membership. Still, we are having old rates 2,500. In near future, we are going to increase that, and so they can take advantage of this. And another announcement is we are also having a program for Malad Chamber members, where program is Saraswati Sanman and musical evening, where we acknowledge academic achievements of our members children, and along with that we have get together dinner. So all members are requested to register at earliest, so we can make arrangements at in the best possible way. So that is the only announcement, and I will now invite Khushbu Ben for word of thanks. Yeah, over to you.
Hello everyone. So first of all, Mayur bhai, thank you very much for your time and the efforts which you had put into showcase the entire GSTR 9 and 9C issues which everyone is facing. You in this 2 hours you covered not only the important things but all the basic things and in detail, that is the applicability, aggregate turnover calculation. You also explain all the tables in detail of form 9 as well as 9C, the issues and challenges which have been faced in practical life, and also a few cases in practical scenario which you have faced and how you have approached to take care of that. I feel all these cases will not only help those who are into GSTR filing since last this few years, but also the ones who are going to file GSTR 9 and 9C for the very first year. For them also, it was a very detailed webinar in which everyone can benefit out of it. So thank you very much for your time and the efforts which you had put it into this.
Yeah, thank you, Kushbu, for a word of thanks. Thank you, Mayur bhai, for all the hard work you've done for our members.
Thank you.